So welcome to this lecture in Embedded Systems 2, and in this first lecture about the PIC16F84 I'm going to talk about how you use a microcontroller and what a microcontroller is. So this primer here is about the PIC16C84. We're actually using a slightly different version of the PIC microcontroller, the PIC16F84, but all the information that's in this primer applies to the PIC16F84 also. So let's get started. In this primer, I'm only going to discuss Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3. So in this lecture, I'll talk about Chapter 1. In the next lecture, I'll talk about Chapter 2. And then in the third chapter, and in the third lecture, I should say, I'll talk about Chapter 3. Chapters 4 and Chapters 5 aren't part of Embedded Systems 2 this semester. You may get a chance to look at them at some other stage, but they're only for informational purposes only. So they're not part of the Embedded Systems 2 module. Okay, well let's look at the preface. And in the preface I'm going to try and explain what a microcontroller is. So this box here represents any type of microcontroller. And what we can do with a microcontroller is we can connect output devices, such as a light, a relay, or a motor, to the microcontroller. And these output devices can be turned on or off. So if I send the logic 1 out here to this light, the light goes on. And if I send the logic 0 to the light goes off. The same with the relay. If I send the logic 1, the relay closes. And if I send the logic 0, the relay opens again. And again, if I send the logic 1 out here to the motor starts turning. And if I send the logic 0 to the motor turns off again. Note the direction of the arrows, they're coming out of the microcontroller. So that indicates that a light, a relay and a motor are output devices. So the microcontroller sends signals out to these output devices. I can also connect input devices to the microcontroller, and that's shown down here in figure P2. So in figure P2 what I have is I've got a photodiode which measures light level, I've got a thermistor which measures temperature, I've got a pressure transducer which measures the pressure in a room. So let's say I can measure the light level in a room, the temperature in a room, and the air pressure in a room. And those are all input signals that are sent into the microcontroller. So again, look at the direction of the arrows. The arrows point into the microcontroller, and these are known as input devices. And what we can do is we can get the microcontroller to take readings of the light level, the temperature, and the pressure in a room, and we can use that to make some decisions. So we can connect output devices to the microcontroller, as shown in figure P1, and we connect input devices to the microcontroller, as shown in figure P2. Let's now look at a simple example of where we can use this in practice. So what I have here on figure P3 is I've got a tank, and inside the tank I've got a certain amount of liquid. I'm going to try and maintain a constant level of liquid in this tank. Now to do that, what I have is a level sensor, and it's measuring the level of liquid in the tank, and that's an input signal going into the microcontroller. The microcontroller uses that measurement or that signal to turn on or off a pump. So let's say some liquid was taken out of that tank, or it was emptied in some way. What we can do is we can turn on the pump to pump more liquid into the tank until it reaches its preset level. So the level sensor measures the liquid level in the tank, and the pump pumps more liquid in the tank if the liquid level has fallen below a certain level. Now the microcontroller, of course, is the brain of the system. So μC here represents the microcontroller, and it could be any type of microcontroller that you can use in this application. So generally speaking, that's what you use microcontrollers for, to control some system, in this case the liquid level in a tank. So the key point here is instead of having somebody manually turning on and off the pump, we have the microcontroller programmed to do that for us. Now to get this system to work, we need to look at three different things. We need to look at the outside of the microcontroller, that's the pins that are on the microcontroller's integrated circuit. We need to understand what's inside in the microcontroller, and that's what this primer is going to discuss. And we also need to know how to program the microcontroller, or how to write programs for the microcontroller, or the software that we used to issue instructions to the microcontroller. So those three things, here, here and here, all have to work together if we're to make an embedded systems. So that's our simple introduction to a microcontroller and what a microcontroller is. In the next lecture, I look at the pins that are on the microcontroller. In other words, I look at the outside of the microcontroller. I look at here. Okay, we'll leave it there for this first lecture. Thanks for listening.